So, nihilism. When you hear that word, what pops into your head? Probably something dark, right? Trench coats, a lot of sighing, this bleak idea that nothing matters. But what if that's not the whole story? What if this philosophy, the one we always connect with total pessimism, is actually a doorway to a pretty radical kind of freedom? All right, let's dive in and really unpack one of the most misunderstood ideas out there. This line from the amazing movie Everything Everywhere All at Once is just the perfect way to get into this. It totally captures the secret appeal of nihilism, doesn't it? It's this release. It's this sudden freedom from the crushing weight of what you're supposed to be doing, from guilt, from that little voice in your head telling you you're not living up to some grand cosmic plan. And that right there, that's the huge question we're going to explore. What if realizing that life has no built-in meaning isn't a reason to give up? What if instead it's the ultimate permission slip to create your own meaning? That's the powerful shift we're going to track today. Okay, so first things first, we have to talk about the popular image, the one we all have in our heads. Let's look at the characters who basically become the poster children for nihilism in pop culture. I mean, just think about it. You've got the Joker, whose whole thing is that society's rules are just a bad joke, and chaos is the only real truth. Then there's Patrick Bateman, a guy so completely hollowed out by consumer culture that he's just a moral black hole. You've got the internet's doomer memes, which perfectly capture this feeling of apathy and hopelessness. And we're back to Jobu Tupaki, who's so overwhelmed by infinite possibilities that nothing seems worth choosing. These are all powerful examples for sure, but they all point to one very specific, and I'd say pretty limited take on the whole idea. So let's get a clear definition down, just so we're all on the same page. The version we see most often is existential nihilism, and the core idea is pretty simple. Life doesn't come with a pre-installed purpose. There's no grand design, no cosmic instruction manual handed to us at birth. And the word itself sounds super heavy, but it's not as scary as you think. It just comes from the Latin word nihil, which literally means nothing. So it's not about believing in nothing. It's more about recognizing that the big values we hold, well, they don't have some objective foundation out there in the stars. Now, you absolutely cannot talk about nihilism without bringing up the man, the myth, the mustache, Friedrich Nietzsche. But here's the twist. He wasn't a nihilist. Not really. He was more like a doctor diagnosing a problem. He saw this crisis of meaning on the horizon and believed it presented all of humanity with a huge, huge choice. Nietzsche famously talked about the death of God, and he wasn't celebrating it. It was a warning. He saw that as traditional religion started to lose its hold on the Western world, it was leaving this giant hole where our highest values used to live. This created what he called an existential void, a deep society-wide crisis of meaning. And from that void, Nietzsche saw two paths, two ways we could go. The first is passive nihilism, and that's our stereotype, right? The Joker, the doomer. This is the reaction of a weak will. It's looking at that loss of certainty and just despairing. It's a dead end, a surrender. But then there's the other path, active nihilism. This, for Nietzsche, is the sign of a strong will. It looks at that same empty space and doesn't see a void, it sees a canvas. It sees that terrifying freedom not as a curse, but as the ultimate opportunity to build something new, to create your own values. So this whole idea of active nihilism, of looking at the void and seeing a canvas, well, it becomes the launching pad for several really powerful philosophies. And these are ones that aren't about despair at all. They're all about actively building meaning in a world that doesn't give you any for free. And that brings us to a more modern idea, and one I really love, optimistic nihilism. This basically takes Nietzsche's active path and cranks it up to 11. It says, great, the universe is indifferent. That means we're not chained to some cosmic destiny. We are totally, completely free to decide for ourselves what our purpose is, to find our own joy, and to choose what really matters to us. And this quote just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly flips the script. The fact that there's no big, external, objective meaning actually makes our small, internal, chosen actions more important, not less. What we do becomes the only thing that matters. Right next door to optimistic nihilism is its philosophical cousin, existentialism. Thinkers like Jean-Paul Sartre put it like this: existence precedes essence. What that means is, you're born, you exist, and then, through all your choices, all your actions, you define who you are. You create your own meaning. The responsibility is 100% on you. And then you've got absurdism, which was championed by Albert Camus. He said the human condition is fundamentally absurd. We are creatures who desperately crave meaning, and we're born into a universe that is totally silent on the matter. So what do? You don't give up. You embrace the absurdity. You rebel against the silence by living as passionately and fully as you can. Okay, so theory is one thing, but let's see how these two different roads, the passive, despairing one and the active, creative one, actually play out in stories we all know. Pop culture is an amazing place to see these big ideas in action. First up, we're diving into the deep, dark end of the pool, nihilism as a complete moral void. And there's no better example than Patrick Bateman in American Psycho. Bateman's world is one where all value has just collapsed into brand names and social status. His entire identity is just a collection of external things. His business card, his designer suits, his apartment. This leaves this profound, terrifying emptiness inside of him, a moral vacuum that he ends up filling with horrific violence. The film is this brutal takedown of a society where a lack of any deeper meaning leads to a total detachment from our own humanity. But now, let's flip that coin entirely. Because then we have Everything Everywhere All at Once, which shows us a character who stares into the exact same abyss that Bateman lives in, but she finds a way to build a bridge over it. Evelyn Wong's journey starts from a similar place. She is literally shown that nothing matters because every single possibility already exists somewhere in the multiverse. This paralyzes her, and it tempts her with the everything bagel, a perfect symbol for total annihilation, for just giving up. But unlike Bateman, she turns away from that void. She makes a choice. She finds meaning not in some grand cosmic purpose, but in the small, messy, beautiful connections she has with her own family. She learns to fight the nothingness with kindness, absurdity, and love.
Okay, so after all that, where do we land? We've seen nihilism as this total dead end, and we've seen it as a starting block. Let's boil it all down to the one crucial point that really matters.
Here's the big takeaway, the one thing to remember from all of this. Meaning is not some treasure you go find hidden out in the universe. It's not something you discover. It's something you create, right here, in your own head, in your own heart, through your own actions. It's a human invention. Look, the universe is vast, and it's cold, and it's totally indifferent. It doesn't care about your good day or your bad day. It is incapable of caring. But here's the beautiful thing. We don't have to be. Our ability to care, to love, to connect, to find joy, to feel sad, that stuff is real for us. In a cosmos that doesn't care, our ability to care is maybe the most powerful thing we have. And that leaves us with one final and maybe the most important question. If meaning isn't just given to you, if it's something you have to actively build for yourself, then all the power's in your hands. In the face of a vast, silent universe, the most important, most rebellious act you can perform is to choose for yourself what truly matters. So, what will you choose?